Hey, I'm joined right now by a good friend and somebody whose work I so respect. He's Jeffrey Lord. You see him all over the place, political commentator, author, used to be on CNN, then he got too good for CNN, used to work with President Ronald Reagan as well. Jeffrey Lord, my friend, thank you so much for taking some time tonight. I want to start with this issue of what the president did today with these Philadelphia Eagles. We'll get into some more important issues in a minute, but how do you think he handled the day?
Well, the only thing I think he could have done a little better here was he laid this to the national anthem. And I frankly think that was part of the problem. I mean, I've been spending a little time today going back and looking at these Eagle players. And over time, right. I mean, it's just basically they have political differences with the president. And I have to tell you, you mentioned Ronald Reagan. I was present when Ronald Reagan greeted the New York Giants after their Super Bowl win in 1987 and the Washington Redskins in 1988. And I am certain that not everybody on those respective teams agreed with Ronald Reagan about any issue or all issues of the day. But they showed up. They were good sports. It was all about football and America, and that was great. It was terrific. And I'm sad to say, I mean, as an Eagles fan, I'm a Red Sox fan, right? I grew up in Massachusetts. And I live in that part of Pennsylvania where the biggest team is Penn State. But I got to tell you, I just think the Eagles handled this very, very badly. I don't care who the president of the United States is. I don't care whether it's Obama or Clinton or Bush or whomever. If the president of the United States invites you, you show up. You show up and show respect for the American people, which is what the office of the presidency represents. I think they did a very bad job here, and it's too bad.
So, Jeffrey, what's changed? In your estimation, what's changed? These athletes and these entertainers, is it just a visceral reaction to Trump? They so detest who he is and his policies?
Yes. And, I'll give you an anecdote here that I heard just a little bit ago from Britt Hume of Fox News. Mm-hmm. He put out a tweet about Kate Spade, the designer who committed suicide today. And, Britt Hume's son killed himself. He's very sensitive on the subject. And he put out a tweet that just said something along the lines of, always be aware that people you don't know are dealing with things that you don't know or understand. That was it. The responses he got on his Twitter feed were all about Trump. I mean, it's astonishing. Wow. Everything is about Trump. It had nothing to do with Donald Trump. And yet they're making it about Donald Trump. The Philadelphia Eagles are a football team. Play football. Win the Super Bowl. Go Eagles. I was there. I was watching on TV. I mean, great. They did a fabulous job. Go to the White House and have a good time. Understand the president of the United States, whomever that may be, represents the American people, and be honored. Don't do this. I mean, this is just terrible.
Yeah. Hey, Jeffrey, this is a divided country. I think it was divided before Trump. In fact, I say often that because America's so divided, that's why Trump won. I think Trump is the product of the divide. I don't think he caused the divide in America. Right. Do you?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, not to get too historical here, but Ronald Reagan was the product of a divide. Abraham Lincoln, Franklin Roosevelt. I mean, presidents get elected because in a democracy, there is always a divide. And the question is, how many people have you got on each side and where are they and what states and all of that sort of thing? And Donald Trump won. He didn't divide this country. This country was divided long before Donald Trump ever said a word about running for president in 2016.
But yet the left seems to have, Jeffrey, almost an out of control hatred for this guy.
Well, they do. They do. I call it, as do other people, Trump derangement system, TDS. Mm-hmm. And they've got a severe case of it. Anything and everything is related to Donald Trump. And, of course, that's just ridiculous. But I can tell you he's got a lot of support right here in the middle of Pennsylvania. He's going to be a very formidable candidate for re-election, and the Democratic Party has got to get its act together if they think they're going to win again. But there are a lot of basic issues. This country is doing exceedingly well economically at this point. And Donald Trump, as do all presidents who have good economies going for them, is going to reap the benefit. And they're going to have a problem on their hands just saying, well, we don't like him because we think he's from Queens and we don't like the way he talks, or, he's not socially up to par for us. I mean, how elitist and snooty can you get?
Yeah. Hey, Jeffrey, I wanted to get to an area where we're not doing exceedingly well in, and this is not because of Trump. Medicare and Social Security. Their insolvency dates have been bumped up. Medicare now is due to be insolvent in 2026. Social Security due to be insolvent in 2034. We've got a country talking about Miss America and the Philadelphia Eagles. Nobody seems to be talking about this hurricane that's coming our way when it comes to these government entitlements.
It's ever thus, Joe, and I am always exasperated about this. I went back and took a look today when I knew we were going to talk about this at how, speaking of Ronald Reagan, how he dealt with it. He finally appointed a bipartisan commission headed by Alan Greenspan, who was the head of the Federal Reserve at the time. Mm-hmm. And they came back with their report, which was basically, I think, raise payroll taxes, do this, that, and the other thing. Reagan felt it was a failure. But he was boxed in on two counts. Number one was the financial situation. He couldn't just let Social Security go bankrupt. And number two was the political situation. Tip O'Neill was out there running off bumper stickers that said Republicans wanted to kill Social Security. Donald Trump isn't going to have that particular problem because he's been staunchly in favor of not cutting Social Security, but he's still going to have to deal with the financial problem, and so is the other side. And boy, I'll tell you, if they just kick the can down the road, some other president's going to have to deal with it. Reagan said at the end of this commission, he said it was a failure and that this was going to be a problem in another generation. Well, here we are.
Well, you're right, Jeffrey, and we're living longer, and generally we're in better health. We've got now almost 11,500 baby boomers retiring every single day, and they're living into their 90s, and neither political party seems to have the courage to have an honest, frank discussion with the American people about this.
That is exactly right, and that is always the problem. They always shy away from this. I can tell you, Joe, in the other room sits my soon-to-be 99-year-old mom. She is, the greatest generation, et cetera. I'm the baby boomer. Yeah. My dad almost made it to 90. She's going to be 99. I have a feeling I'm going to be here for a while. And there's all these baby boomers. We've been making tracks since we arrived everywhere along the way. Television, music, rock and roll, et cetera, et cetera. I have a feeling old age is going to be incredible for a lot of people who are not baby boomers and are going to have to pay for us.
Hey, before I let you go, Jeffrey, give me your take right now. I love to get your temperature, feel your temperature. As you look toward these midterms in about 4 or 5 months, do you feel like the Republicans have righted the ship a little bit?
I do think they have. I mean, I think it's far too early to predict. I mean, I know, having been involved in these things, you've been involved in them certainly, that historically these things do not go well for incumbent presidents of either party. But on occasion, there's an exception. JFK, Bill Clinton in 1998, George W. Bush in 2002. They're rare, but they do happen. And if we keep cruising along with the economy, and as the immortal James Carville said for Bill Clinton, it's the economy. Yeah. But if we keep cruising along like this by November, I think he could pull it out. But we got a long way to go yet.
Yeah, but as you say, Jeffrey, if anybody could do it, it's this guy in the White House. He is the epitome of an X factor. Hey, Jeffrey Lord, my friend, thank you. Thank you for taking some time.
Anytime, Joe.
Thank you. Hey, coming up, I've got a question for everybody. Does anybody out there really care what the United Nations has to say? Does anybody give a darn about what the UN says? I'll explain that when we come back.